kind of whiz behind the tree.
What's up, everyone? I'm Lockouts, and in today's video, I'll be discussing the best talents, AZ traits, and macros for PvP and PvE for your UnHoly DK. Check it out, baby. All right, everybody, jumping right into it. What I want to talk about first, before we even get into the talent tree over here, is going to be, if you're playing in UnHoly DK, you have a pet. Your pet is your right arm, your right hand. He is everything to you. Without him, you are nothing. So being able to control your pet and understanding that what you do is manipulating the control of just you and another entity of you that's running around, you have control over it, and being able to control that pet at all times to do whatever it is you want to do will make you a lot stronger of a DK versus just letting your pet run around and cast whatever it wants to and do whatever it wants to. Sure, it just auto attacking and helping will help you, but playing like this and using macros and key binding them to your attacks and spells will help you be a better DK. Now, the first thing that I'm going to talk about is just basics. Other DKs, if you're, more advanced or whatnot, you can modify your macros to do whatever it is that you want to do. Talking about PvE and PvP right here. Now, sometimes you want your pet to be on another target, and sometimes you want him to be on whatever target it is that you're hitting at all times. So what I do for PvE and for general PvP uses is on my Festering Strike, I have my pet attack bound also to Festering Strike as a macro. So I use hashtag show tooltip Festering Strike, and then /cast Festering Strike / pet attack / start attack. And what that does is every time that I hit the button, even if I'm not by that target, it will make my pet attack that target. Whatever target I want it to, he'll start going over there and attacking that target. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is your pet has a ranged stun and a kick ability. What I do is, and how I play my DK is one of two ways. If I'm in arena, okay, I want my pet to be able to leap on my command and kick a cast, okay? So what I do is, if I'm not by it, I have my kick naturally, my interrupt for mind freeze, bound to my F key. And if I'm not by it, my pet will range for me and leap over there and kick that target. Now, when I get by it, I also have another kick on top of it, so I have two kicks right there. Boom, I just blast them like that. Okay, the next thing that we're going to talk about is I also have my pet attack bound to Outbreak. So on Outbreak for a macro, show tooltip, cast Outbreak / pet attack, start pet attack. And what that does is, if I'm on this target and I cast Outbreak and then I switch over here to this guy, well, then my Festering Strike will attack for me. And then I switch back over here. And whether or not that attack's up, Festering Strike doesn't even have to be up. You're going to send your pet in that direction. You're going to have more control. He's going to be attacking your target. Okay. Now, the next thing that I want to get into, also, before I even continue, make sure that you actually control and learn how to control your pet and what you can do with the macros, how you combine them to your keys, your play style, okay? But your pet is going to be the biggest thing for you that you need to contribute to and watch. Also, your cooldowns and his, okay? That's why I have everything set up on my screen the way that it is. Now, jumping right into it, though, for your talents, your level 56 talent, there's one of three ways that you're going to play this, depending on if you're playing in PvE or PvP. Now, for general consensus, this is 8.3, so UnHoly DK just got a buff for all will serve, okay? So your single target, your best overall DPS in PvE or PvP, depending on how you want to run this. Now, I'm going to tell you that general, if you're running PvP, all will serve is going to be your go-to because you get a ranged pet, okay? that also well, he's a ranged pet and he's casting for you, and then you also have control of your pet. So you get 2 pets with this. You have this guy right here, little skeleton, little skulker guy, and he's casting his little bow and arrow, and then you have control of your pet over here. Okay. With this talent, it is stronger in DPS than it is Infected Claws. Infected Claws, what this talent does is it causes your ghoul, when he is in transformation, his claw attack has a 30% chance to add a festering wound onto the target. Now in PVE, this is going to be where you're running big boy DPS at, because you're going to want to get as many festering targets as you can on as many targets as you can and pop them as fast as you can. Okay. Your ghoul putting festering wounds on there, his attacks also pop festering wounds. So he's applying festering wounds with you, he's popping festering wounds, you're popping festering wounds. The AoE damage is ridiculous. I'm going to tell you right now that your level 57 talent should be bursting sores. Very few circumstances, maybe Ebb and Fever is going to be better if you're playing in PvP and you're in an arena and you're playing a lot of, like, you know, druid boomy stuff that's like ranging the shit out of you all the time, and you got to have your dot damage on there, and you're going to make them want to dispel it all the time. Ebb and Fever is going to tick a little bit harder, it'll get a little more damage off. Bursting Sores, though, it got a nice little buff in the last previous patches, and to be where it is now, it's going to be your overall best ability, because you're all the time trying to put a festering wound onto your target. Putting the festering wound onto your target and popping it is going to help your AZ traits and stuff like that. We'll get into that as soon as we finish these talents. The next one that you're going to play for your level 58 tier is going to be kind of up to you and how you play. I always stick with my go-to is Asphyxiate. It gives me a ranged off stun. I'm able to throw it in there. If my grip is on cooldown or something like that, it's able to help me get into my target a lot better. The next thing that you want to do, depending on if you're playing on PvE or PvP. PvE is awesome in bigger keys. You can run Grip of the Damned. It'll help big adds run around. It'll help slow them down so that your DPS that are with you and your tank and everything else is able to help mitigate and control and burn the adds down. So Grip of the Dead is better for, or not better, it's just, you know, it's situational depending on what you're doing and at the time. Death Reach, it's really, I mean, read it. It's kind of useless, okay? The go-to right here in the level 60 is Soul Reaper. It's going to be your highest single target DPS, and you want as much haste as you can get all the time with UnHoly. The more haste you have, the more healing that you do, the faster that your dots tick off. Everything just happens faster in Soul Reaper. If you kill a target while it has Soul Reaper on it, gives you a 10% haste benefit for 8 seconds, okay? The next thing that you can run in this is if you want to run big boy keys and you have lots and lots of adds going on, you're not doing a lot of single target damage, then Soul Reaper will get out DPS by Pestilent Pustules. Busting a Festering Wound has a 10% chance to gain you Runic Corruption. Runic Corruption, if you guys don't know what Runic Corruption is, we're going to have to get into our spell book right here. Each runic power that you spend has a 1.4% chance to increase your rune regeneration rate by 100% for 3 seconds. So every time that you spend runic power, you have a 1.4% chance to increase your rune regeneration rate by 100% for 3 seconds. Okay. The next talent that you want to run after that is going to be Death Pact. Oh, well, finishing off what I was talking about, Pestilent Pustules, is it gives you a 10% chance to grant Runic Corruption. Runic Corruption helps your runes regenerate faster. Your runes regenerate faster, you're able to use your abilities faster. Now, moving on. Level 75, this is going to be situational. It's up to you, PvE or PvP, okay? A lot of PvE, if you've got a good healer and you don't really need or dependent on your you know, like an oh shit heal, that's what Death Pact is. It's a holy, oh man, I really need to live right now or I'm going to, you know, die. So you run Death Pack. That's what that's for. Wraith Walk, you know, it makes you move faster through the dungeons. Spell Eater, what this does is it causes your shell to absorb 30% more magic damage in the last 5 seconds. It's pretty good for arena if you know you're playing 2s, maybe even 3s, and you got like a lock and a mage that you're going against, or you know, Shadow Priest and a mage, or Shadow Priest lock, or Boomy Shadow, whatever it is, it's a ranged guy. This will absorb 30% more damage, and it'll help mitigate it so that your healer doesn't have to work as hard, or you have to work as hard at saving yourself. The next thing that we'll get into is your level 90 talents. This is kind of, I mean, UnHoly DK is all over the place, but this is the build that I'm running. There's a couple different ones, and I'm explaining these so that you could put them together as you want. Epidemic, this causes each of your virulent plagues to flare up, dealing 3,122 shadow damage, and inflict the enemy an additional 1,249 shadow damage to all other enemies that are by them. So when you put your virulent plagues on there, you can see it's on there for 3 to 4 seconds. You can outbreak it and then put your epidemic on there, and it'll AoE damage everything that's around you. So if you have a big enough pool of adds, you're going to burn them down with epidemic, okay? And epidemic is going to be your go-to for spending runic power. Your next talent for level 100, it's Summon Gargoyle is trash. It's on a 3-minute cooldown. It's huge. It's not worth anything. It's worthless. Army, I don't get me wrong, I can't say it's worthless. It's got such a big cooldown that if you could spend enough runic power fast enough while you have this guy out, you can buff it up enough to where you could really hurt people single target. I'll say that, okay? Army of the Damned, Death Coil and Epidemic reduce the cooldown of Apocalypse by 1 second, and Army of the Dead by 5 seconds. So every time you Death Coil or you use your Epidemic talent right here, you're going to be cooling down your Apocalypse and your Army of the Damned. I don't like this at all. I think that Unholy Frenzy is my go-to. It is almost everybody else's go-to. It incites you into a killing frenzy for 12 seconds. It increases your haste by 20%, causing your auto attacks to infect the target with a festering wound. So you get a massive haste buff for 12 seconds, and it kind of synergizes with you trying to play PVE or PvP. So if you're in PVE, you're going to pop your Unholy Frenzy after you have lots of festering wounds already applied to all your targets and your ghoul is already out, okay? And then you pop your Unholy Frenzy, and then you go into your Scourge Strike, or yeah, you go into your Scourge Strike with your ghoul in transformation, and you'll pop all them festering wounds faster, which will your DPS. Same thing with if you're in PvE, you're gonna rack up a bunch of festering wounds on your target. You're gonna dark transform your pet right here, and then what you're gonna do is Apocalypse them, or Unholy Frenzy, and then Apocalypse, and then you're gonna festering strike them once or twice to get more festering wounds on them, so that you could pop them with Necrotic Strike. That moves us into our PvP talents. Gladiator's Medallion is your go-to. Don't ever, never auto trinket nothing. Sometimes you want to sit a stun. Sometimes you want to sit a fear. Sometimes you can live through all that stuff and you'll just eat that CC up until it DRs and there's no need. So you want to control your trinket on your command, because sometimes you're going in for a kill and you'll get a fear off on you, or a rogue will blind you, or something will happen and they'll be at 5% ready to, or within execute range, and now you gotta sit because your trinket is auto burned or whatever. So use Gladiator's Medallion, run it. It's your go-to. Now the next is Necrotic Strike. If you're an Unholy DK, if you're playing PvP, run Necrotic Strike. That's what you do. It's your go-to. Okay. Then that's going to move us into Transfusion. Transfusion, you're an Unholy DK. Playing in PvP, you want Transfusion. It generates 20 runic power as soon as you pop it. It's on a 45-second cooldown, and it reduces the runic power cost of Death Strike by 50% for 7 seconds. So when you go in here and you have runic power, okay, and let's say that you got 60 runic power and they're starting to dump on you real hard, you pop it, and then you can Death Strike for 50% reduced cost. So right there at 60 runic power only, I just got 4 Death Strikes off because I popped that. There's 5, 6, so it costs 50% less. I was able to get off 4 Death Strikes usually, and that was the cost of 2 full Death Strikes. So It helps you live, heal, and it's on a 45-second cooldown, so you're near impossible or very, very hard to kill in PvP with transfusion. Now, this will move us into Raise Abomination. This is your PvP talents. Okay, this is going to be the one that you're going to switch out depending on what you're running, how you're running it. Are you in rated? Are you in arenas running 2s, 3s? Are you running against classes that can range you? Because if you're having a hard time staying within range of your target, that's when Clawing Shadows is going to help you, because you know you're going to be rooted a lot, and druids, boomies, or just druids overall play roots. Good druid to keep you rooted all the time, right? So Clawing Shadows helps you range hit them. So that's going to affect your Raise Abomination, which means that they're just going to LOS it and range it, and it's not going to hit them. It's going to be hardcore unless you can dump a good stun into them and pop Raise A-Bomb or have it kind of set up. You know, this is going to be the talent anyways that you're going to switch out, and it's going to be for either Necromancer's Bargain if you're in Arena, Lichborn if you're in Arena, Dark Simulacrum. This right here helps you steal fears and polys and stuff like that from mages and other buffs that are on other targets. If you're running in rated, and AMZ, Anti-Magic Zone, is an awesome talent. This right here helps mitigate damage for not just you, everybody that's around you. It's on a 2-minute CD. It lasts for 10 seconds, and it reduces spell damage by you and all party or raid members for 60%. So I mean, it's a huge thing. So if you're on, let's say that you're fighting on a flag and you dump this on a flag, all that caster spell damage that's going on that flag, you're gonna help reduce it for 10 seconds. So if you're you see that you notice, you know, you're a DK, you're calling targets. That's what your job is. That's what you do as a DK. You grip in, you call, this is the guy that we're going to kill this healer. We're going to kill this caster. I'm going to kill this healer, and you're going to kick that caster, or vice versa. Either way, you're the boss. You're the guy that's running it, dumping AMZ when they're starting to dump on you, or your team is going to help mitigate damage for you guys. And that's going to be the talents that you're going to switch out. Now, this right here is awesome in rated and also in BGs, and it's really good and also strong in arena. So it's highly situational, and what you switch it out for, it's up to your play style and what you guys are going up against. So that's why I went over these talents the way that I have and explained them the way that I've done. That's also why I started out with your controlling macros and stuff like that, because, you know, even if you're on a pack of ads, whether or not it's PvE or you're hard switching targets, it's in PvP, you don't want your pet to still be over here in transformation, and you're trying to get the kill on this target over here, and your pet's still over there, and you have no way to get him over there without some other kind of crazy keybind somewhere. Okay, so binding him to spells that you normally use, or making him, you know, like if something's trying to range you around a pillar, you could send your pet, like say if he's standing right here, okay, and this is the pillar, you could send your pet this way, and then you run around the pillar this way, so now your pet is going this way and he's going this way. So he's going to either try to kill your pet, do something to your pet, and it's going to give you X amount of time to try to get back over there and chains of ice your target. Now that moves us back into rotations for PvE or PvP. Okay, if you're playing in PvP and you're a DK, especially UnHoly DK or Frost for that matter, Chains of Ice, man, it's broken. It pisses people super duper off. You build runic power with it, and it just, I mean, it makes people mad, dude. You'll see them jumping up and down when they'll be like this. I start giggling, man, because I'll just fucking Chains of Ice the shit out of people. I don't care. I'll just run around and just start chains and stuff. And you'll see they'll be in slow motion, all bouncing up and down because they're pissed because they're getting beat on and you're chaining them and stuff. And yeah, man, Chains of Ice, use it. It's broken. It's funny. You'll have a good time with it. So moving into PvP rotation. What I do is I get in there. I have 6 festering wounds on my target. What I'm going to then do is Dark Trance. I'm going to Unholy Frenzy, and then we're going to Apocalypse our target. We're also going to Soul Reaper him. We're going to get all our pets going into him. We're going to bust all these wounds with Festering Strike. Okay? We're going to spend our runic power with Death Coil as much as we can. We're going to keep our dots on him as much as we can. All right? And that right there is helping us when our whatever it is that you are doing. Always try to keep a festering wound on your target so that you could pop it with either Scourge Strike to do AoE Cleave, or to absorb damage with Necrotic Strike. You're going to then spend the rest of it, if you're trying to cleave and you're in PvP, Epidemic is awesome. Dude, you don't even got to do much but stand in the back, keep your dots on there, keep casting Outbreak on them, and then spend your runic power with Epidemic, okay? And you will cleave targets hard, and you don't have to be in there. You can put your pet in there. You got Hell Chains going from AZ talents and traits, and that's doing cleave damage. Everything about you as a DK, man, cleave. And you cleave hard. You hit everything around you, you eat it up. That's your job, is to just eat things up. Slow it down, mitigate damage as much as you can. You want to put as much, your job is to spread pressure, man, and a lot of it. And that's why I named my DK Freddy Krueger, because he's just a monster. And you know, it pisses people off when you are thoroughly at a good level with your DK and you feel comfortable with him, and you're just chains of ice and everything. You're kicking targets, you're gripping in stuff, you're ranging stuns, you're dropping in your abominations at right times, and you're doing a really, you could do a lot of pressure. Now going into defensives for yourself, you have Icebound Fortitude. Icebound Fortitude, it grants you immunity to stun, and it reduces all the damage you take by 30% for 8 seconds. All right, so if you are facing a rogue or a druid or something else that can stun you, for that matter, Icebound Fortitude reduces all the damage that you take. So if you're getting beat onto, this helps you mitigate damage, and you can't get stunned while you're in it. Okay, that's going to be a good defensive for you. I usually pop Icebound and then Transfusion together. That right there helps me after Transfusion is done and I started getting even lower. What I'll do is I'll Death Pact usually before Transfusion. The reason I Death Pact before Transfusion is because it heals you for 50% of your max health, but for the next 15 seconds you absorb 30% of your max health and heals. Okay, so popping Transfusion, 30% of each heal is going to get absorbed from your Death Pact that you use for the next 15 seconds. And then Transfusion and the Death Coils, or the Death Strikes that you use with Unholy Frenzy and Transfusion, helps you heal a lot faster, stay up longer. Even if you could Death Pact and then stay alive, you know, for 8 or 9 or 10 seconds, and then pop your Transfusion, that'll help, because you for only about 5 seconds or 4 seconds, however long it is, until Death Pact CD is up, you know, you're going to be absorbing heals. So trying to spread them two out and use them to the best of your ability is awesome. Now, if you are in single target DPS mode and you feel like you're starting to get rune starved, what I do is I will spend, even if I have a choice between Death Coil and Death Strike, and even if I'm full, I will Death Strike, because it costs 2 different runes. Okay, it's 35 runic power, it's instant, and it helps you cool down different runes at different times, versus just spending Death Coil and hoping that you get a runic corruption off from spending Death Coil, if you will. Moving into PVE now, what we're going to be talking about is like Infected Claws and Bursting Swords. Okay, that's where you are going to get all your dots on everything as much as you can. Okay, you're gonna have your pet is going to be Dark Transformation. You're gonna try to get some Festering Strikes off on different targets. Okay, and then you're going to pop them, all of them, as you're standing on top of a Death and Decay. You have to have a Death and Decay out, and you're going to use Scourge Strike on top of your Death and Decay. Okay, you stand on top of a Death and Decay, you Scourge Strike all of your Festering Wounds as your pet is Dark Transformation. Standing on top of your Death and Decay, while you remain within the area, your Necrotic Strike and Scourge Strike will hit all enemies near the target. You can Necrotic Strike all of your targets if they're stacked up. You understand? While you have your Death and Decay out. That's why you want to have everything already set up so that when you do pop your Death and Decay, you're ready to just only spam Scourge Strike or Necrotic to bust them festering wounds. And you want to get that off as many times as you can to hit as many targets as you can and spread it around as much as you can while your Death and Decay is up. Use it on CD so that you, or not even necessarily on CD, use your Death and Decay as you need to move into big boy cleave damage, okay? And hit all the adds and targets that are around you. Now we're gonna move into AZ traits. What you want? Now it is highly recommended that you get at least one Fester Mite. Busting a festering wound grants you 122 strength for 20 seconds. Stacking this effect does not extend its duration though. So from the time that you start busting a festering wound, 20 seconds into that, it'll stack up and it'll build your strength. So if you've got 15 adds stacked up and they all got 3 fester wounds on them and you pop them, your strength will go through the roof for 20 seconds. That's why you use Fester Mite. The next thing that you could run is Hell Chains. Hell Chains is super strong for PVE cleave damage. Okay, it also is very strong in battlegrounds and rated battlegrounds. The next thing that you're gonna want for single target damage in PvP or PvE is going to be Magus of the Dead. Not even your second thing, this should be your first thing to go to for PvP and PvE single target. Magus of the Dead, Apocalypse, every time you Apocalypse and every time you Army of the Dead, it summons a Magus for 20 seconds. He hurls frost bolts and shadow bolts at your foes, dealing 1921 shadow damage each time. So if you have this stacked 3 times in your head, shoulder, and chest, you get 3 Maguses every time that you Army of Dead and Apocalypse, and he hurts. So if you stack it 3 times, he triple hurts. 2 times, double hurts. Common sense, okay? The other thing that is good for you is Last Surprise. Last Surprise, surprise, surprise. Actually, when all your ghouls are up, your Army of the Dead, things like that, when they're about to expire, instead of just dying off, they go out with a bang and they explode and cleave everything. Really strong. A lot of people downplay it. Some people don't even know about it. A lot of websites lie about it. I sim it, I run it, and it cleaves hard. Try it. Especially, you know, in PvE, right? Like, it cleaves hard. So if you got a bunch of adds there and you Apocalypse and you got a bunch of your ghouls out and they all blow up at the same time on all the adds, you get a lot of extra AoE damage as a benefit. So as you're playing, you know, your UnHoly DK and you're killing mass pools of adds, on the Last Surprise just adds another benefit or a bonus to you, okay? For your inner and outer, for your last inner rings here, I mean, it's kind of up to you what you want to run. It's, you know, Elemental Whirl, you get haste, crit, mass, reverse. Winds of War, taking damage, grants you 45 dodge. It's kind of useless. Blood Siphon increases your mass and your leech by 44. It's pretty useless. You already heal for like a ton as an UnHoly DK as it is. I don't have a huge item level on this guy. I don't have a lot unlocked on him right now, but I've played DK for over a decade, so I'm the guy that you want to ask about this. I mean, I'm the GM of Serious PvP. I have about 500,000 kills on my account. I've been playing since vanilla. I've been doing this for a long time. My guilds are no longer active because I do so much with my companies and streaming now and making these guides. It takes a long time to get all this done and all this information collected and out to you guys so that I'm able to help you guys out. Let's see, what is anything else that I missed? Talents, traits, rotations, macros. I think we pretty much covered just about everything that there is. If there's anything that I left out or you guys feel that you want to add, please leave it in the comments down there below. If I did a good job or you feel like you learned something, help a fella out. Help a fella out. Like, subscribe, click the notification. I'm Lockouts, baby. Peace.
Cover for me. I got a whiz behind a tree.